It's day 3 of the Wild Biome Project, and I'm doing a few more frequent videos at the start, especially because it's kind of like that initial transition and people kind of fall into the rhythm of wild food at different stages. I've seen posts from different people that I know in the foraging world who are also on this diet, and some of them are really struggling on the first few days. Not necessarily struggling in terms of eating wild food, but they're struggling in terms of giving up carbohydrates, giving up toast. There's a few symptoms that people are having, especially if people have just given up caffeine, they've drank every single day. You're going to get headaches from that, but also just kind of coming off carbs and getting used to a low carb, high fat diet, and just body kind of resetting, because a big part of this transition is our microbiome. It says a lot about about our eating habits and what we're feeling, and as that's changing, it's kind of screaming, I want that toast, I want those carbs, I want this, I want that. But then as those bacteria kind of disappear and your microbiome readjusts into kind of like the wild food, like different microbes flourish on this diet, and as your gut readjusts, suddenly you start feeling, okay, that's not too bad now, I actually feel okay, I feel good, I feel better. Like for me it's an interesting one, because I haven't had that bad of a transition, even though I gave up pretty much mostly wild food for the past couple of months, or over winter. I had a big meal of venison mince last night just because I hadn't eaten much the day before, and today I have my morning snack is the pemmican that I made the day before I started. This particular recipe came out so good, I'm glad that I refined it on the last diet. That hits the spot. You've got the perfect balance of the sweetness and the tanginess from the blackberries and the sea buckthorn, but you've got the meatiness from the venison. But because I used muntjac meat, it's not as gamey as other venison is, so it's really, really delicious. God, that's so good. So good. So today what we have planned is a few things. One of them, I've made more pemmican in the morning with the last batch that was in the dehydrator. The next thing that I have to do is to go and collect my stream water. That's a daily thing. And I'm going to collect a bigger batch of wild garlic today, because one of the things that I saw Michael White doing is, I think it was Michael White, he was making a huge batch of wild garlic salt, and I don't really eat too much lacto-fermented wild garlic. I did make a little bit last time, but I tended to keep eating things fresh, and one thing that I did miss was when the wild garlic vanished. I wanted that fresh spice of the garlic, and you kind of lost that a bit with the lacto-fermentation. So what I think I might do this time is to try this garlic salt, just loads and loads of wild garlic, get it mixed in the salt, reduce it down, dehydrate it, and hopefully that will provide me with a nice spice for taking me through the other months when I want a little bit of garlic hit to my meals. And then in terms of food for later on, I have no idea yet. Maybe more venison, I don't know, or I'll just do something quickly with greens and tallow, and I don't feel that hungry, honestly. Maybe I'll even have something with acorns this evening, just a simple acorn gruel, I don't know. But we'll get to that point when we get to that point. So for now I'm going to just enjoy my pemmican, enjoy sitting by the lake. So we've got this much wild garlic, and I was just musing to myself as I was picking, and just in silence listening to nature gathering the leaves, and I was just looking at this vast patch that is established here now, and I'm just thankful, really, that all that hard work that I put in during COVID just paid off. Introducing certain wild species to the field. I've got sea buckthorn somewhere else that it's growing. I don't know if it will fruit this year, but it just goes to show that you just nurture nature. You give it a head start, give it a helping hand, instead of building over it, spraying it, cutting it, getting rid of it. Give it a helping hand. Be the keystone species that we once were in a positive way. And even if it's in your back garden, if we just plant, say, a bit of wild garlic in a pot, that's going to be there for years to come, and it's going to feed you for years to come. It's just, all of this wouldn't have been here if I didn't put in the hard work and dig 3,000 bulbs into this area. This just wouldn't exist. And now it's paying me back tenfold by how much it's actually producing. I don't have to go anywhere else this year. I can just harvest all the wild garlic that I need from this patch. And that's kind of what I want to do, continuing with it just makes me want to continue doing this, adding species that have possibly been lost from all the agriculture and modernisation of the world, and just kind of increase the edible diversity of the area. But what to plant next, I don't know. I've planted pendulous sedge, and that's taking off. So in some years' time, that's going to be absolutely abundant. It's just, wow. It leaves me almost speechless at how much is here. And all we have to do is just nurture nature. We just have to build our relationship back to nature in some way, no matter how small. And if we can, maybe a lot of us that are stuck in cities, stuck in towns, or just not, we need access to it in some form, and maybe then we'll actually fight for what we're losing before it's too late, because we're actually losing greenbelt now, greenbelt land. They decided to start building houses on greenbelt land. I've got greenbelt up here with the railway line, the old disused railway line. Not allowed to do anything with that, not allowed to do anything that would disrupt it. Yet now they're building houses on other greenbelts. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy. The landscapes won't be what we remember them as in another decade. And that's kind of what I remember my late father, who said things weren't the same as they were back then. Like, there were so many more fields, there was so much more greenery. And even in his lifetime, everything changed, and it's happening still. So I just hope that we do enough in the next decade to kind of reverse this impact and kind of nurture what we have left, and hopefully reintroduce things, wild things, and not in a conservationist mindset, but in a unified mindset of, this is part of us, this is something we can go around, we can wander around, we can freely forage, we can freely connect with it and reground ourselves to something that we've really, really, really lost in the modern world. First of all, let's see how much wild garlic I have. 555. So theoretically, what you would do is 50-50 weight ratio. That is a lot. So I think this one might be too small, and I may have to use my bigger blender. The original plan with this won't work. And then we'll just put the sea salt in. And then we have to try and get all of these leaves into here. Gosh, that is a lot. That is a lot. Fills the whole blender up. This is the first batch spread out. My eyes are almost starting to water. This is seriously as potent as onions, but I've levelled it out as much as I can, and that's just going to go into the dehydrator. Now, part of you might be thinking, well, that salt that I used to make the wild garlic salt is not wild, but theoretically, yes it is, because it's Cornish sea salt. It's taken right off the seas of the Cornish coast, and in hunter-gatherer times we wouldn't have been on our own trying to get absolutely everything that we need. We would have had a team of people, so someone would have gone and made the salt, someone would have gone and made something else, someone would have gone and made something else. So really all I'm doing is supporting a Cornish company who's producing the sea salt, and the point of the Wild Biome Project is to not necessarily forage and gather everything yourself, because that's not possible in a modern world. You still have to buy in venison and things like that. So as long as it's wild and you don't go too crazy with it, it's okay to use on the Wild Biome Project. And the other factor that people are allowed to do, same as last year, was that with the birds' eggs, because you're not allowed to actually pick any wild birds' eggs in the UK, if you find a nest somewhere and you find out what bird it is, we've got a little chart that tells us how many eggs that's equivalent to chicken eggs. So we're allowed to use organic free-range chicken eggs to substitute for bird nests, because the hunter-gatherers would have eaten the eggs straight out the nest. So I'm looking out for Canada goose nests especially, or big birds nests, because if you spot one, that's a lot of eggs that you can use, equivalent to in chicken eggs. So I might even instead of just getting chicken eggs, I think what I might stick to, in fact, is if I do find goose nests and things like that, I'll get the equivalent in free-range goose eggs, because that's probably going to be the closest thing that I can mimic in that respect. I've only had maybe 2 pieces, well, I've had 4 pieces of pemmican today. That's all I've eaten so far, but I've got so much energy. I've got so much energy. I've been around, I've been doing jobs, I've went out to get things to make the wild garlic salt. I've been out to make the pemmican. I've been very active, but I haven't been feeling like I'm missing anything, that I need something. My appetite is completely satiated. And it's absolutely amazing. You don't need to eat a lot to stave off that appetite. And I wonder, essentially, like, in the modern world where we're always feeling hungry, essentially. And I think our modern diets are partially responsible for that hunger, because they're not as nutritious, they're not as packed with all these essential ingredients. And so we end up needing to eat more and more and more and more just to kind of feel full. Whereas on the wild food diet, with certain wild greens, once you eat those, they're so dense, they're so packed. And then with the venison tallow and the venison and other things, I just saw a pigeon, I really need to start hunting. I feel like it just kind of sorts your appetite out. The only time you will actually feel hungry is when you're ravenous, when you're starving and you really, 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 really need some food. So that's the only time that you really feel hungry on the wild food diet, which is really fascinating. Wow. I was actually wondering what I was going to have for dinner today after doing the wild garlic salt, and I saw the pigeons just starting to roost in the trees, and I thought, I haven't hunted since the last Wild Biome Project. And I thought, okay, if now's the opportunity to try and do it, let's go and see what we can get. And first time I missed. Second time, I have my dinner. Really appreciate this. So I'm going to prepare this down and prepare it for food. Gosh, that is so lucky. So what we're going to start doing is preparing the pigeon. We've got to do a couple of things. One of them is to make sure the gizzard is completely empty. The other is to get the waste out. So I think first of all, what I'm going to do, we just want to cut under the abdomen, because you don't want to, you want to be really careful not to cut the guts, because if you do that, you're in trouble and you can spoil the meat. So what I wanted to do was to just get inside the gizzard, get under the rib cage, and
open it up from there, and then we can basically pull all the organs out. There we go. The main organs are out. What I just want to do is to cut away that back end, because that is where all the poop is, and I just want to get rid of that part, even though there's a fair bit of fat in there. I just want to get rid of the poopy bit. So that's easy enough to remove. We just have to cut into here. Well, we don't even have to cut, we can just pull that part out. And that's basically what the pigeon has just been eating before. Well, so you can see exactly what its last meal was, and I think hard to tell. I think there's dandelions in there. The next step is to get the organs out. And here we go, there's the amazing liver. It looks in really good condition actually. And then get into there and there. And there's the heart, little heart. I'm taking all of this in one go this time. I've got two cameras, so I'll be looking back and forwards. But one thing I wanted to mention was that the pigeon is now completely prepared, and one thing our hunter-gatherer ancestors would have done is to eat the organs nice and fresh. And something I've always done whenever I've hunted an animal is to always eat the heart. So there we go. And honestly, I prefer the taste of fresh organs rather than anything that's been in the store for too long. And what you can also do as well is you can look at the organ meats, and you can get a good idea of how healthy the animal was before it was eaten. And that liver looks really good, so we're going to take that as well. That one's really bitter. Really bitter. But that's where all the nutrition is. Gosh. Oh, that liver was really bitter. But I think, considering they've been eating dandelions and all of that kind of stuff, that kind of makes sense. But wow, I think I prefer the heart over the liver, but there is so much nutrition in that liver, so I didn't want to waste it. And now what I managed to get as well, pigeon brain. Look how tiny that is. The last Wild Biome project I ate a rabbit brain. Gosh, that is, I did not set this camera up properly. So, pigeon brain. Not as bitter as liver, definitely. Really nice and creamy. Such a nice creamy texture actually. But yeah, the point I wanted to make across was that our hunter-gatherer ancestors, I didn't say it right this time, they ate raw organs straight from the animal before they spoiled, and the rest we'll take home and then we'll cook up. So the pigeon I'm going to roast, and yeah, my first raw organs of the Wild Biome Project. Don't waste anything. Okay, so that's pretty much everything done for today. I've got my pigeon ready to go in the oven. I've got to go and get the rest of the birch sap from down the field, yeah, once that's cooked, it's time to settle down and it's time to relax. So that's all for me today. That's day 3. Just I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to like, subscribe and follow my channel if you'd like to see more about the Wild Biome Project. But that's all for me for today, and I'll see you in the next video.